Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be my product reviews update video. I like to do these every couple of months just to give you some updates on the products that I reviewed and to see if my opinion has changed on them, whether I like them or whether I don't. It just depends, you know, you just never know. I've had a few products where my opinion has changed, and so we're gonna get into all of that in the video. We're gonna first start off with the complexion, and this product I didn't technically review per se, but this is the Tatcha Liquid Silk Canvas. I have been wearing this I've been wearing this off and on since it released. I don't know when it was, but it's been over a month ago. As you know, this is Tatcha's liquid form of the original silk canvas. Now, I wear the silk canvas during the summer. I don't wear it in the winter, which is the reason why you've not seen me use this in any of my videos, because this I just don't love in the winter, but I do like it in the summer. And so I thought when this came out, I thought, okay, well, if this is more of a hydrating form of this silk canvas, then maybe I will like it. But I'm going to be honest with you, I have not had the best luck with this primer. I've used it off and on. I've used it with several different foundations. I can't get my foundation to melt good over top of it. Can't get my foundation to blend over top of it. It just, like, you can see it, like, you can see the foundation sitting over top of where I apply this. And I don't like that. For some reason, I'm just not able to get my foundation to melt into this primer. So this has been a pass for me, and it's kind of a bummer because it's very expensive, and it's supposed to be a featherweight protective primer. And it is a little bit more hydrating than the traditional silk canvas, but with the traditional silk canvas, I am definitely able to get anything to blend over top of it without any issues, but I just can't get it with this. I just can't. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't work for me. So this is a pass, just FYI. Let's move on to a few foundations. We're gonna first start with the Bite Beauty, and I don't have it with me because I returned it, but I'm going to give you guys my full opinion on this, and I don't think it'll be surprising, but the Bite Beauty broke me out worse than any foundation I've ever used. In my review, I uploaded images of the little red dots that would appear on my skin after the first day of wearing that. And, you know, for that review, I wore it for about 4 or 5 days off and on. You guys, it took me over a month to get my skin halfway decent. And then I went through a death in the family and wasn't taking care of my skin, and I went through it all over again. But the moral of the story is I've never had a foundation that has, like, broke me out with, like, big boils. Like, I had these, like, big zits that were just festering and gross. That foundation broke me out, and I test out a lot of foundations. There's something in the Bite Beauty. I don't know what it is, but it broke me out and it wreaked havoc on my skin. I can't say it's gonna break you out. I don't really love it anyway. Like, even though it broke me out, I didn't really think that it was, I thought the hype was overrated in my personal opinion. I just did not feel like it was that pretty of a foundation. Maybe it's just me. So that's my opinion on the Bite Beauty. It broke me out, don't like it, will never touch it again. However, with that said, I don't think it was that special. So there you go. The next one is the Makeup Forever Reboot Foundation. This is supposed to brighten, smooth, firm, hydrate, and even out the skin. Now, this foundation, I don't love this foundation like a lot of people do. I feel like a lot of people have really enjoyed this. I didn't get the best results with it. And for me, it didn't have enough coverage, and truthfully, during the time I was reviewing it, I needed a good coverage foundation, at least a good medium. I didn't get that out of this. This is like a really light coverage for me, and I don't love this. I think this is probably a foundation that I could wear on a really good skin day where my skin looks really, really fresh and healthy and radiant. I could probably wear something like this, but this is not going to be something that I will reach for. It's not that dependable. You know, I might mix it with one of my foundations that's really pigmented, such as like the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Falls filter that's crazy pigmented. They might pair up well together. I might have to test that out. But as it stands for just this one, I don't like it. It's not my favorite. Okay. Let's talk about the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate Soft Radiant Foundation. I'm actually wearing this foundation right now, and like I said in my review, I really like this foundation. I didn't want to like it because it was so expensive. I like this foundation. I think it's a very beautiful foundation, and it does illuminate the skin in a very soft way. I like it. Do I still think it's worth $150? No, because let me tell you something. If you're going to be $150, then you better make my skin look bomb. Like I better look 20. And don't get me wrong, I know that's unrealistic, but when you pay that much money for a foundation, you're really, really asking a lot out of it. And don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful foundation. If you have the money to spend, then go for it. But I don't feel like this is anything different than what we already have out on the market that's way less, like less than half the cost. Now, in my review, I compared it to the stick foundation, which you guys know that the Tom Ford stick foundation is my #1 favorite foundation. I don't want to love it, but I love it. It's beautiful. With that said, this is actually cheaper than this because you only get a ½ ounce with this, and this is $88, and you get a full ounce in this for $150. So the stick foundation is more money than this, but I still love the stick. For me, I pay $88 for this all day long because I love it. For me, for this, don't get me wrong, pretty. I love it. I'm going to continue to wear it. I already have it in my collection. I didn't return it. So I like it enough that I didn't return it. But I think it's a beautiful foundation, and I still stand by it. I don't necessarily think that it is worth the $150, but I will say the Shell Beige, which is 7.5 Shell Beige, this is my exact skin tone. It has a little bit of a warm olive, which is rare to find in foundations. Sometimes they're either too warm or sometimes they're too olive, but it's really hard to find that perfect combination. I also wear the 7.5 Shell Beige in the stick foundation, and it is the perfect match to my skin. So that is the #1 reason why I kept this. It wasn't because it makes my foundation look any different than some of my other favorites. It's just because the shade match is so amazing. I like it enough to keep it, but I still don't know that it's worth $150. So there you go. Now, some people had speculated that the Estee Lauder Futurist Hydra Rescue Foundation was very similar to the Tom Ford, and I disagree with that. I know that Estee Lauder now owns Tom Ford, so I know that there's always some speculations about, you know, is the foundations the same? Are the formulas the same? And they might be. Who knows? Truthfully, who knows? We all know that when it comes to Tom Ford, you're paying for the name. It's good quality products, but you're paying for the name. And that's, at the end of the day, what it is. However, this foundation, I have to be very careful with applying this. So I wore this the other day, and by the end of the night, it was like peeling, like really gross around here, because I had forgotten that this is a foundation that you really have to do light layers of this. You cannot go heavy anywhere because it will lift off of my skin. So, you know, I like this foundation. I don't like 100% love it, but I do still really like this foundation. I think it's beautiful as long as you apply it the right way. If you do a thin, even layer. There are some foundations, for example, this one I can get away with a little bit too much. The Tom Ford Stick Foundation, I can get away with a little bit too much. I can. But this is a foundation that I can't. Now, this one, I didn't do a full dedicated review to this. I actually used it, I think, on a full face of maybe new products or something. I can't remember. But this is the L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Serum Foundation. And full disclosure, the 5th ingredient in this foundation is alcohol. If you have any sensitivities to alcohol, be careful with it. But for me personally, this is beautiful. Like, this is probably my #1 favorite drugstore foundation. It's gorgeous. Absolutely beautiful on especially aging, maturing skin, because it does kind of just melt into the skin. It looks very fresh, very hydrating, but also sets down so it's not slipping and sliding all over. I think this is beautiful. And some people have said, so I've done a lot of research because I know that there was a big issue with the alcohol content in this foundation, but some have said that the alcohol content isn't as drying as it might be in other foundations because there's other ingredients in this foundation that kind of put back the hydration that maybe the alcohol content might take out. So keep that in mind. There are a lot of nourishing ingredients in this foundation on top of the 5th ingredient being alcohol. And it doesn't mean that all alcohol in all foundations is bad. This one just has a little bit more alcohol than some of the others. So keep that in mind. I don't have a sensitivity to it. It doesn't dry. I have drier skin and it hasn't dried me out at all. I think it's a beautiful foundation and I'm going to be wearing it a lot during the summer. All right, let's move on to concealers. So this one you guys are not going to be surprised by. This is my Hourglass. This has become my absolute favorite concealer. And I didn't think that could happen, but I absolutely love this concealer. It is one of the prettiest concealers. It just smooths my under eye like nothing I've ever applied. Like, I don't know what is in this formula, but when I put it on, it just smooths everything out and it like lays so beautifully over my wrinkles. Now, the key to this is not applying too much because it's very pigmented and it's a thicker formula. So when you see me apply it, you're thinking she's applying a lot of that. Technically, I'm not, because I do wipe off the applicator so that there's no big globs of concealer sitting on the wand. And then I go in, but because I like to drag my concealer down into this area, I wipe off the wand and then go in. Now, if you don't like concealer down on this portion of your face, then I just recommend putting like 1 or 2 dots right along here and blend it out. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the prettiest concealers I've ever used in my entire life. Now, some people don't like this. Some people think that this is a little bit too heavy for them. Keep in mind, if you only apply a little bit of this, I think 90% of the people will love this. It's just a product that you just don't need very much of, and a little goes a really long way when applying this. But my gosh, you guys know this has become my newest favorite. Like, I am so I'm so in love with it. Next up is the Dior Forever Skin Correct. I think this one is beautiful too. I feel like this one is just a very natural concealer and it's more of like a medium coverage. You get quite a bit with this, and you can see I've used a lot of it. I alternate between these three, actually. The new Pat McGrath, really love the new Pat McGrath too. I would say the Hourglass is the most kind of like full beat, if you will. It kind of just gives you that full coverage, very smooth. The Hourglass concealer is almost like the Tarte Shape Tape in a very wearable formula for me and my drier under eyes. And so I think that's what I appreciate about it the most. I would say the one from Pat McGrath and the one from Dior, both of these are just very natural and look very beautiful on the skin. I just bought a lighter shade of this concealer. I would probably use this one more, but this one is the exact same shade as my foundation. I don't really know what I was thinking when I ordered it, but so I recommend all three of these concealers. I think it just depends on if you like a more natural look or if you like a really nice full beat look. It just all depends on what you like, but all three of these are just really, really good formulas. Really love them. Now, the one that I will not forget or count out is this one. This one is the L'Oreal. You cannot count this one out though. This is beautiful. For any of you out there who have dry, mature under eyes and you want just a very natural, beautiful concealer and it's affordable, this L'Oreal Age Perfect Radiant Concealer is beautiful. One of the prettiest concealers I've ever used from the drugstore. Looks very natural underneath the eye, and one of just, you guys, so beautiful. And it stays nice and radiant all day. Like, so good. We're gonna move on to the Natasha Denona. This is the Love Glow Cheek Palette. Now, I know that I am alone in how I feel about this palette. So many of you out there love this palette. So many of my friends who are also creators and review products, they also absolutely love this palette. I was not a fan, and I am still not a fan. This palette is just way too glittery, shimmery for me. And for those of you that love a beautiful shimmer on your cheek, I think it's perfect. It's just too much glitter for me. It just is. It's got a lot of glitter and it's got a lot of shimmer. And for my cheek and my face, I don't like that much. I did just recently purchase this This is the Natasha Denona Bloom Highlighter Blush. I wasn't actually going to get this when it was launched because I thought it was the same shade that was in this palette. And I'm thinking, why would I want this when it's the same shade in this palette? But it's actually not. This is exactly what I was hoping this palette would have, but it's not. So this goes on in such a very soft way. You don't want to use very much. Like this, you want to be very careful with because it is pigmented. So what I like to do is I like to just tap my brush in there and then tap it off really good. And sometimes if you feel like you're a little bit scared, you know, tap off on your hand and then go in. But it's such a soft shimmer. It's not too much shimmer on the face. And it just kind of like highlights the blush in such a way. It's very beautiful. And it's exactly what I was hoping this palette would be. I know Natasha Denona, she is very big on, you know, having those really dramatic cheeks. But that's not wearable for me on a daily basis. Like it is for an editorial picture or, you know, whatever. But this is just too much glow, too much shimmer, and I just don't love it. But I know that so many of you out there love it, and that makes me happy because you guys got your money worth, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. For me, it's still not my favorite face palette. Later, let's talk about the Cheek Star Reunion Tour. I just recently reviewed this, and still not like fully happy with the entire palette. I think Georgia was definitely a huge disappointment. I really wanted to love it. I did. And you know, these were the 3 shades that I wanted to buy this palette for because I already have the Hoola bronzer and I already have Cookie in another palette. So these are the 3 shades that I wanted this palette for, and this is just not it. It just was not peachy, and it was almost nothing on the cheek, and it was very, very disappointing. And I know that Benefit can do better, and it's just kind of disappointing that they created such a beautiful shade without hardly any pigment. I mean, there's no pigment in this. When you put it on the skin, it's like, where did it go, and what was that? It's not. Yeah, don't waste your money. Do not waste your money on this big palette. Now, I recently reviewed this from Hourglass, and I am obsessed. You guys, this is the Ambient Metallic Strobe Lighting Palette. I have been using this almost every day since I got it, and I am obsessed with this metallic strobe highlighter formula. I have regular highlighters from Hourglass and they're beautiful, but this metallic strobe formula is off the charts. So gorgeous. And this is a palette I highly recommend picking up during the Sephora sale. If you can splurge, if it's within your budget and you have a little bit of money to spend on makeup, this is something that I think most would love. It's utterly beautiful. Tap off and go in. It's, oh God, you guys, I can't even tell you how beautiful it is. It's so natural. I said that in my review and I stand by it. The natural look that it gives the skin is unbelievable. It's so pretty. You guys, this palette is spectacular. It's just off the charts. So pretty. Okay, let's move on to a few palettes. I want to first talk about the Pat McGrath Divine Rose. And I have to say, this is a beautiful palette. I mean, it's beautiful. It is. I just created a look with it a few weeks ago and fell back in love with the shades in here. There's truly only one shade in here that I will probably never use, and it's this holographic. I'm just not into holographic shades. They're just not my jam, you know? We all have our thing, and that's just not me. Okay, the next palette, I wasn't fully convinced that I liked it. I thought it was a good palette, but I wasn't like overly in love with it. And I have to bite my words because I am falling more and more in love with this palette. The more I use it, the more I'm loving it. This is the KKW Beauty and Artists in the Muse palette. I like this palette. I don't feel like it's necessary. Now, like, don't get me wrong. In my video, I kept saying, the shades are okay. I didn't really feel like the shades blend like the regular classic palette does, and I still stand by that. I think the shades in the classic palette and her other palettes blend a little bit better than this one does. But you guys, this blue, I don't know that I ever appreciated how beautiful this blue is, but this has to be probably one of the prettiest like navy blue shades. I don't have anything like it in my collection. It's just so beautiful. And using that as like an eyeliner, you know, doing a nice, like beautiful line. Recently I did a look on Instagram where I used the shades in this palette. I used this on my lid. I used this in my crease. And then I took the blue shade in the first KKW Beauty and Mario palette, and it's kind of a brighter blue, and I put it on I put it as eyeliner. Gorgeous. It looks so pretty. And that's kind of how this palette is. It's so beautiful. And this blue is just, it's so much prettier than I ever gave it credit for. Is this really pretty mustard yellow shade. Oh my gosh, it will brighten up this shade like you have, it just, like when I put this on the crease and then put a little bit of this over top, it gives it so much depth. Oh, fantastic, you guys. Okay, the next one is the Natasha Denona Love Palette. I have to be honest, I do. I'm gonna just be very honest right here and right now. I have used this palette one other time since the time I reviewed it, and it's just not my color story. There you go. There's my honest opinion. It's just not my color story. Pretty, but I just don't wear these shades. That's just where it's at. That's where I'm at. That's as honest as I can be. I can't tell you whether my opinion has changed on this palette because I've only used it once. But what that tells me is that this was not worth this was not worth the buy for me, because I've only used it one other time since I reviewed it, and it came out in what, February? So that tells me that I kind of wasted my money. I mean, because at the end of the day, what it boils down to, whether a product is worth it. Number one, is the quality there? Is the quality worth the money? Number two, is it going to be something you will use? If it's not going to be something you use, then it's a waste of money. And that's kind of what the Love Palette was for me. I bought it to review it, and I've only picked it up one other time. And the one main reason why I picked it up is to grab this shade right here. It's called Lifetime. It's a beautiful shade, and that's it. So again, whether the palette is good or not is irrelevant. It's just not a palette that I'm reaching for. So when you're thinking about buying anything, that's what you need to think about. Is this something I will actually use? Yes, it looks really pretty in the promo pictures. And yes, so-and-so did such a beautiful look, and it looked so beautiful on her. But is it going to be something that you pick up? Is it going to be something that you use? If it's not, don't buy it, because it's a complete waste of money. That's my philosophy. Okay. We're going to go into the Sydney Grace Enduring Love Palette. These shades are stunning. Now, this is a very cool tone palette. I'm excited to see what they release again. This peachy shade is unbelievable. This is what I call a true peach. There are no pinks in this true peach. It's got that champagne peachy shade. You guys, that peachy shade that is what you call a true peach. It has a little bit of the shimmer of the champagne, but it's truly a peachy champagne shade. It's the perfect peach. And this shade right here will completely blind you. Okay, check this out. Are you blinded? I mean, look at that. It's reflecting so much off of the light, the camera won't even pull it up. Look at that. It is unbelievable how pretty this shade is. It's the prettiest silver I've ever seen. This blue right here, it's like a blue, you guys, seriously. I mean, you are talking some of the most metallic shades you've ever seen. And Sydney Grace is where it's at, you guys. It is where it's at. Now, if the colors in this palette are not your color story, they have tons of singles. And these are some of the prettiest metallic shades I've ever seen. And in my personal humble opinion, I think these shadows beat Natasha Denona all day long. In performance, in application, everything. I love the Sydney Grace formula. I think it's one of the best on the market, and it's a brand that deserves more love because it's fantastic. So those are the product updates. I hope that this video was helpful. I want to try to continue to keep doing these. Sometimes I kind of forget about these type of videos, and I think they're important, especially for those of you out there, especially in this climate and the financial situations that we're going through. You really want to make sure that if you buy something, you know, after somebody reviews it, do they still like it? Is it something they're still using? And like I said, not only does the formula matter, but whether you are going to actually use it matters most. So I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope you guys all stay safe and healthy. I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.